In this video, I'm going to show you a feature which is called port fast. As a matter of fact, port fast feature is a very nice feature, and I'm going to make sure that this is enabled on these interfaces facing the end devices. The reason for that is any change to the interfaces which have spanning tree enabled on them is going to create a topology change notification, and this means that all the switches have to check this notification to make sure that they are facing the right device, the root bridge. And in case you have not configured something like priority on switch 5, which has changed it to root bridge, and this one which has backup root bridge, then the change is going to be devastating for our network. The other thing is any change to these interfaces is going to take something like 30 seconds to bring this port up. Because the port in common spanning tree or IEEE spanning tree protocol is going to be in listening state for 15 seconds and in learning state for another 15 seconds, which means that as a matter of fact at least 30 seconds is going to be spent on just this transition. And then this interface is going to go into forwarding state, which is a desirable state. What I mean by that is if I just configure port fast on these interfaces, or I just say this is an edge port. Edge port is the new name for port fast on OcNOS devices on the newer versions, of course. If I just configure this as an edge port or port fast, then this interface is not going to go into forwarding, into listening, learning, and then forwarding state. So let me show you this in action. I'm going to go to switch 1. I have Ethernet 4 connected to a PC. This means that this interface should not have any kind of, anything to do with the spanning tree, as a matter of fact. I can disable the spanning tree on this, but let's just make this a port fast interface. So let's go to switch 1. And here for now, I'm going to say show spanning tree. You can see that Ethernet 4 is in forwarding state right now. And if I just come down here, it says something like no port fast configured. And also bpduguard and bpdufilter are not configured. These are, of course, global configuration. We are going to check them after configuring port fast, but let's just go to configuration mode, go to interface EAT4, and what I'm going to do is to say shut, and then I'm going to commit this configuration, and then I'm going to say do show spanning tree. So before checking this, what you see here, it says that topology change detected. This means that the TCN has been created for us. Ethernet 4 now is in disabled state. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to say no shut, and then I'm going to commit the configuration, and then I'm going to say do show spanning tree. Ethernet 4 now is in listening state. If I just run this command one more time, this is still in listening state for 15 seconds, and then after that it's going to change into learning state, which is right now. So it is going to stay in this state for 15 more seconds, and then after that this is going to say I am in forwarding state, which is going to be right now. You see that now the Ethernet 4 has changed into forwarding state. Okay, this is not something that we can afford right now. What I'm going to do is to say spanning tree port fast. So I would say spanning tree port fast, hit enter, or as an alternative I can just say spanning tree edge port. Edge port is the new name for port fast. Here it is. It says that edge port enables edge port on this, and also port fast enables fast transition. Both of them, of course, are the same thing. So if I just say edge port and hit enter, to show run interface EAT4. For now, of course, this is not committed, so you do not really see anything here. If I just say commit and then show the configuration, here it says that, you see, you don't see port fast because we have just entered an alias for that command. Okay, so if I just, I'm going to just make sure that what I have done is committed. Now, what I'm going to do is to say shut So I'm going to say no shot and commit it. I'm going to say do show spanning tree, and you can see that Ethernet 4 is in forwarding state. It doesn't go into listening or learning state anymore. So this is very important to make sure that all these all these ports which are connected to end devices are in port pass mode. And I'm going to do this on switch 2, switch 3, and switch 4. So let's go to switch 2, configure terminal, interface ETH2. And I'm going to say spanning tree, port fast or edge port. Let's go with the newer version command. So on switch 3, enable configure terminal interface ETH2, and then I'm going to say spanning tree edge port and commit it. And finally we have switch 4, en configure terminal spanning tree edge port, spanning tree of course under this interface configuration ETH2, spanning tree edge port, and then commit the configuration. Okay, now we have done this. Do show spanning tree says that Ethernet 2 is in here. If I just go down, you can see that port path is not configured, but we have edge ports on that, which is fast transition for us, exactly like what we had, and we just checked it. The result is the same, but you can't just go with port fast configuration. That's going to, enable the same thing for you. Okay, so this is Ethernet 3 as a matter of fact. Here, it should be edge port configured. It doesn't say port fast. It says edge port, but you know that edge port is an alias for port fast. So that is the most important thing to understand when configuring this. Okay, there are some other features that we really want to enable. For example, we do not really want to receive any bpdu from client side, from these end devices. Now, if there is a bpdu, we can do two different things. We can just shut this interface down, which is putting this interface into air disabled mode. Or we can just, filter the bpdus and do not receive it. Sometimes we want to have a trunk interface connected to, for example, another router. But we want to make sure that we do not have any bpdus on this trunk interface. In that case, filtering is going to be more preferable. Because we really want that interface to still be up and running. Sometimes when we have end devices connected to the switches, then bpduguard is going to be better, because we just don't care. We want to make sure that the security is at the end level, at the best level. So what I'm going to do is to configure bpduguard and bpdufilter under interface, not global configuration. I guess I said global configuration, which is wrong, but under the interface level. So what I'm going to say is I'm right now under interface Ethernet 2. I'm going to say spanning tree, and you can see that we have bpdufilter and bpduguard. Because this is connected to an end device, as you can see, I'm going to enable bpduguard, which says put ports in air disable upon receiving any bpdu. So I'm going to say bpduguard and then enable. Or I would say default, of course. But here I'm going to say enable, and that's it. So I'm going to say commit, and in case I receive any bpdu, then this interface is going to go into air disable mode. I'm going to do the same thing on all the interfaces that I had here. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say commit. The same thing on switch 2, commit, and the same thing on switch 1, of course, and commit. And now I'm going to say to show spanning tree. And on switch 1 we have Ethernet 4. As you can see right now, it says that Ethernet 4 is in forwarding state. That's okay. And we have this edge port configured, which is okay, but check this. it says that bpduguard is enabled right now and current bpduguard is on. We have not configured bpdufilter, but this is the same command almost. What you are going to do is to say that spanning tree bpdufilter enable, and that's it. That's going to enable bpdufilter for you. So basically these are the security features that we have to configure on all devices to make sure that from end device side, from access port side, we do not have any hazards.